All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our August San Francisco Products That Count webinar. Today, we have yet another exciting session lined up where we're going to explore the strategies for achieving product market fit quickly, right? Quickly is key. This is an essential skill for any product leader looking to drive success in today's fast-paced environment. Before we dive into the main event, though, I want to highlight a few incredible aspects of the Products That Count community. Number one, this is a community of over 500,000 product managers. So Products That Count is one of the most influential networks of product managers in the world. So glad that you all are a part of this community. And as a part of being a part of this community, there are thousands of incredible resources out there and available to you. There is a treasure trove of videos like this one will be on YouTube on the How to Product channel. And these are content, right? Videos, podcast, articles that are authored by C-suite, VP level product leaders, and those principal product managers that move mountains and make the magic happen. And so there is no shortage of expert insights to help you navigate whatever product challenge that you're experiencing. So if you're looking to deepen your knowledge on any product topic, I recommend that you start with Products That Count. It is an incredible asset, and there are lots of rich resources out there for you to leverage. Now, let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Denise Hemke, and outside of my role with Products That Count, I serve as the Chief Product Officer at NeoGov. If you don't know NeoGov, and if you don't work for the government or public safety, you probably don't, we provide a robust human capital management, workforce management, and public safety platform really tailored for the needs of the government entities. And so that really ensures a seamless and user-friendly experience designed for their specific needs. Now, you didn't come here to hear from me, though. You came to hear from our incredible esteemed speaker, Subha Shetty. Subha brings a wealth of experience from her tenure as Vice President of Products at Fanatics, which is the world's largest sports and commerce company. And now she's serving as startup advisor to Wayfound.ai and Adeptmind.ai. She's got 15 years of omnichannel experience spanning large companies like eBay and Walmart to innovative startups. Subha has a proven track record of transforming emerging products into industry-leading products. So you are getting expert access today. In today's webinar, Subha is going to share her insights on how product leaders can escape the dreaded product death cycle and create products that really resonate with both customers, users, and stakeholders. She will also add some AI twist to the conversation, she has promised, offering tips and tricks to validate, align, and evaluate, and finally launch products quickly, making sure that your efforts are really driving progress in the right direction. Before we get started, though, I just want to quickly remind you to use the Q&A section of Zoom, because Subha is going to present really for the first half of this webinar, and then we're going to have open Q&A on the back half. And honestly, that is where the magic happens. That's where any question that you might have about product market fit, where you want to learn from Subha's deep experiences, we can go deep here. So cue those questions up. And if you aren't a Zoom expert, there's typically a ... at the bottom of your screen where you can find the Q&A. So post those questions in the Q&A. Don't hold back. You can start posting them all throughout, and I'll moderate those questions to Subha at the end. And so please stay on. Don't miss that Q&A section. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Subha. You're on mute. There we go.
If we had $1 for every time we spoke when we were muted, I think we would all be millionaires, wouldn't we?
Filthy rich. Filthy rich.
Thank you all so much. And thank you, Denise, for that extremely kind and generous introduction. I now have the task of sharing my screen, which is always a bit of a hit or miss, so please bear with me. Can you all see this slide in terms of
Looks
achieving product
perfect.
market fit quickly?
Full screen looks good.
Great, awesome. So I think we're ready to go then. Again, thank you so much for having me. This is a topic very close to my heart. As you can imagine, over my career, I've seen epic product fails and great product successes. So really thankful for the learnings. I feel every great product really starts with, product market fit. And so, trying to understand what this is, and importantly, helping share some of these tips and tricks that will help you achieve that product market fit quickly is something I'm grateful for the opportunity for. I love this quote. If Henry Ford were to go and ask what people wanted, people would have said they wanted faster horses. If we really took the essence of why the combustion engine was actually built, it was built to feed and take care of horses faster and better. And that is one of the fallacies of that we live in as a product manager and as a product manager leader, which is if we ask customers what they want, they will tell us what they want. We will build exactly what they want. And we will then wonder why this isn't getting the kind of adoption and love that we expect it to be. Because for the effort that we all put in, for the passion that we bring to the table, our products deserve to be loved, deserve to be at the forefront of growing revenue. But it's important to stay cognizant of the fact that wants is not equal to needs. That's where the sophistication and intelligence of a product manager comes in that helps us glean that difference and helps the company escape the product death cycle. As a quick example to this, I remember one of my team members coming to me and saying, hey, we need to build this bulk upload functionality because a lot of our customers are using a ton of documents. And we built the bulk upload functionality, but nobody was using it. And then we discovered all of their documents are lying in Dropbox. And what we really needed to build was an integration into Dropbox. So understanding customer needs and wants will help you break that product death cycle, which in itself can be extremely expensive for companies, as you can imagine. So how do you escape this product, death cycle? A lot of, I think what I am also going to tell you today, and hopefully as product managers, you can empathize, is common sense. You escape the product death cycle by identifying what problem your customers are facing. The problem that the customers in the previous team that I was leading, where we had this idea of creating a bulk upload functionality, wasn't that they had too many documents per se, but that they had a lot of documents in Dropbox that needed to be organized. So unlocking and understanding what those customer needs are, differentiating again from the needs and the wants, is only possible when you spend more time with your customers and really getting to the root cause of the problem. And it's important to then focus on the outcomes. I mean, we want to save time, we want to save money, we want to help our customers do all of that and more. And we live in this age of AI and generative AI right now, where we have tools for us to be able to get there quickly. You have experts in the form of tools that can already get you there quickly. So I also have a list of great resources for you from an AI and generative AI standpoint that can help you achieve and stay on top of assessing your product's health and, importantly, escaping that death cycle. So as you can see, I'm pretty passionate about this. I do believe that product market fit is the first step in actually creating great products. I've spent about 20 years creating products, mostly in the retail, commerce, and marketplaces spaces. I'm right now a product advisor to 2 generative AI startups, and I'm truly enjoying the advisory and learning journey. I'm a 3-time vice president, been at 2 startups, one which IPO'd and one which got acquired. So by all practical measures, I've probably seen products at various life cycles, 0 to 1 to million to a billion plus. And I'm very fortunate to have led teams and put together teams that have actually scaled products to not only millions of users, but also billions in revenue. With my experience, I was looking for ways in terms of how I can share this with others. And I was given the advice by one of my mentors to be able to work with some startup accelerators. So I also work with Founders Institute, Spectra, 500 startups. You may have heard of these startup accelerators, where I work constantly with CEOs and guess, no prizes for guessing what the #1 topic is that we focus on: product market fit. And through that experience, I also dabble a little bit in angel investing. Why product for me? Is because, I think at the heart of hearts, I like to build, I like to learn, I like to take a customer problem or a market need or a problem and really solve that through technology. I like to imagine how my products and teams would thrive, how the world would be different if my products and teams were really successful. And I think that has really helped me in my leadership journey of creating vision and vision typing. And I do believe, although I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm entrepreneurial in that I work very well with constraints. In fact, I think the most creative ideas are when you have certain constraints. So again, this is not a talk about what is the theoretical form of product market fit. This is not a talk about what are the multiple levels of product market fit and why this is important for your company. You can Google that and learn that a lot through many resources. And at the end of the presentation, I do have a couple of really good resources for you if you want to delve deeper into this topic to be able to, read those. But this is a talk more about how to help you achieve product market fit quickly through a 4-pronged framework. And so prior to that, let's make sure we're all on the same page on what just is product market fit. When you look up Wikipedia, it says it's the degree to which a product is able to satisfy a strong market and, or if I may add, a customer need or a demand. And it is usually the first step in building successful products in a way that actually allows the product manager and the company to meet early adopters, gather feedback, and really understand the interest in the product at a very deep level, which then helps you understand whether to pivot, persevere, or pull the plug. So really, product market fit is a key stage in the early stages of understanding where to invest, in future product improvements, development, etc. So again, this is not about what are the various levels or a theoretical understanding of product market fit. I'm going to give you practical tips and tricks to achieve product market fit quickly. And why quickly? Because, hey, time is not on anybody's side here. So, with these tips and tricks, my teams have consistently been able to achieve the kind of velocity and intelligence to be able to make great and better decisions. And I hope you will be able to do that too. So the 4-pronged framework that I just wanted to quickly lay out is how you validate products quickly, validate product market fit quickly, how you evaluate product market fit on a consistent basis, how you align various conflicting points of view, and how you launch quickly to be able to gather that feedback quickly. So let's dig right in. So the first is, how do you validate product ideas quickly? Again, a lot of it is, I'm sure you have heard of it and is common sense, but I'll reiterate it. Having an MVP is important, or some people may call it MDP, minimum delightful product. But it's not just important to have an MVP, it's important to also test the hypothesis and the outcomes through maybe just a low code or a no code prototype that allows you to understand that customer need and that problem quickly. So this is the place where I'm encouraging you to fall in love with the problem more than the solution. And I have an interesting example to this, which is, so I actually was the PM that launched Walmart Grocery. And I say this with all humility because this was obviously a team effort, but we launched it in 2011, the Walmart Grocery online delivery model. Just to give you a frame of reference, Instacart launched in 2013, Amazon Fresh launched in 2015. So we were truly one of the first few, we were not the first, Webvan was the first, which actually failed. But we were possibly the second in the market to actually introduce an online grocery model. And the way we wanted to do this at that time was for customers walking into the Walmart store, we would put a kiosk in that grocery section, which would, make that grocery section a little bit more fancier, a little bit more jazzier. And we would give them the list of inventory there. They would pick whatever they want, add it to the bag. And then by the time they finished the rest of their shopping, their grocery bag was actually ready. This was the MVP that we had imagined and we put out there. And it was mostly driven because we really needed to improve the velocity of our grocery SKUs, especially given that they were perishable. Now we put this out there, and I'm sure you can empathize with this. When you have feedback that actually trends in possibly a negative direction or negative customer feedback, it's actually sometimes easier to wrap your head around it and make some decisions around it. But it's very hard to wrap your head around decisions when you have some users using it. The feedback is kind of so-so. So we really weren't sure whether to keep this or not. So as the product manager, I pivoted to be able to to test the hypothesis next, not just the product in terms of like just having KPIs. So the hypothesis that we wanted to test for why would people want to have like an online grocery or a kiosk-based grocery model was because the hypothesis was that it would save them time. So we then pivoted to be able to actually see and measure whether it was saving them time. It could have been other hypotheses. It could have saved them money. It would have been different, better quality, etc. But we really zeroed in on saving time. And what we realized through some customer studies is that it actually ended up increasing the length of time of purchase. As you can imagine, somebody's walking in, they would rather just go in and bag the items themselves versus deal with a kiosk when oddly the items are actually right there and they would rather just go in and do it again themselves. So it actually oddly ended up increasing their time. And we would not have got this insight if we had not tested the hypothesis more explicitly. Now, with that under our belt, we then knew that we needed to pull the plug of this product and pivot to something else that would actually save them time. And then was born the online, the mobile app where you can, wherever you are, you don't have to be in a store, wherever you are, at home, at work, at a playground, moms, especially, that was one of our target demographics, main target demographics, if you may, can easily order their groceries and have them available and ready for pickup, which was the first model that we had, which was pickup. And then we added delivery to it, would be available for pickup in any store. That ended up saving them time. So the hypothesis of saving time was validated only with our second iteration. And if we did not do that testing of the hypothesis, you would have Walmart stores right now with kiosks across all of their grocery aisles, with some people using it, with so-so feedback, with not real kind of like delivering customer value. And I'm so glad we made that pivot. So really, it's important to validate your product ideas by not just having an MVP, ideally like a low-code, no-code kind of prototype, but importantly, testing the hypothesis and testing the outcomes. And in today's generative AI world, use an LLM like ChatGPT is one of my favorites, also because it, I think, came earlier, and I've just trained my ChatGPT to be able to be more brand conversant in terms of what my outcomes are. It could be Gemini or Claude for you. You can use these models to be able to iterate on the hypothesis and really learn more, and just use that as just another point of view in your journey of validating product ideas. Next, moving on. How do you evaluate product launch success? The good PMs on my teams have KPIs: customer growth, customer retention, engagement, etc. And absolutely, you should have all of that. But here's what the great PMs do. The great PMs have a way of understanding what is the ROI of this product. If you're spending $10 million and having an annual revenue run rate of ARR of 1 million, is that positive ROI? Answer is no, it's not sustainable over a period of time. What is that level of degree of differentiation that you have in the market? And this is something you should be able to simply write down in 3 to 5 sentences. How are products, competitors' products, different from ours? How is ours better than the competitor products? What would enable that switch from competitor product A, to ours? And then importantly, what is that level of positive customer emotion that you are evoking in your customers because of that launch? NPS is a great way to kind of gauge this. But it's also important to understand what is that level of emotion. So as an example, when I was at Upwork, we built this time tracking tool, which will basically create a work diary of the freelancer contractor work. For folks who don't know what Upwork is the world's largest freelancer marketplace, where typically the demand from an employer standpoint comes from the Western countries, and supply from a freelancer standpoint comes from all across the world. And we created this time tracking tool and this work diary that would actually be sent to the employer because of the customer emotion that we wanted to evoke in the employer, which is trust. So this emotion could be different things for different people, but it has to be something a little bit more sophisticated than happiness and joy. Because if they're not happy using your product and don't feel a certain sense of kind of like positive emotion like joy, then why are you even building the product? But it has to be a little bit more sophisticated than that. For us at Upwork, it was trust. And we measured that through qualitative and quantitative ways. The quantitative way was, are we getting repeat projects from the employer? If that is the case, then they're trusting the platform. Are they giving high feedback to the contractor, to the freelancer? If they are, then they trust that freelancer. And, are their billing cycles, are they off, or are they able to bill at the rate that actually we expect them to be able to bill? And if that is smooth, then that is a case that they've just put in a solid, trustworthy billing method, and they've kind of filled it, shut it, kind of forgot about it, which is actually a good thing for us. But to get to that level of trust, we needed to actually give greater visibility and transparency into the freelancer's work that would actually help them achieve this level of trust. And so that time tracking tool and that work diary was our way of doing that. Think about what it can be for you. What is that level of customer emotion that you want to evoke? And what could that specific capability that you want to build that actually invokes that? So again, at a high level, good PMs have KPIs, and you should also have that as a baseline. But great PMs know what the ROI is, what is the degree of differentiation, ideally medium to high, and what is that positive customer emotion that you are invoking in your customers. And in today's AI world, you could use like a Gong type like AI first tool, which has a multi-modal way of recognizing and recording all customer interactions. You can do keyword search, possibly by emotion, and also get to certain points in the video where you're able to actually see that emotion on your customer's face. So, we didn't have tools like that, 10, 15 years ago. And we all have that right now. And I think we should definitely use that for us to be able to increase our level of knowledge of how these seemingly fuzzy topics like customer emotion can actually manifest themselves. Okay, next one. How do you align conflicting ideas? This is a good one, because you only have as much product market fit, as much as not just how you believe in it, but how much your collective team actually believes in it. And I have a counterintuitive kind of way to actually approach this. The first is I believe that actually conflict is good. There is healthy conflict and there is unhealthy conflict. Conflict in terms of different points of view for a product, different ideas, different feature requests, etc. That could be conflicting to the existing roadmap, for instance. These are all actually good conflict, and great product managers are actually able to take all of that and incorporate that consistently in their feedback moving forward. And the first and foremost thing that actually can help with this process, because you want to encourage that healthy conflict, because the diversity of ideas and thoughts actually statistically is known to help improve the quality of your product too. So at Fanatics, for instance, we had a wholesale buying platform. This is for people like Targets and the Walmarts, or Denise's shirt shop actually placing large bulk orders on Fanatics. And when I came into Fanatics, there was this large conflict about whether we should build, whether we should buy, whether we should partner. And I think as a new product leader, and anybody in new roles, transitionary roles, should take advantage of that newness by actually staying independent of the build, buy, partner kind of decisions, and focusing on creating a product vision that folks can align and rally behind. And creating a product vision or a North Star is a session in itself, as you can empathize. But at a high level, the three pillars are to empathize with your customers, stakeholders, market, to create and co-create that with your stakeholders, and then evangelize and do almost like a road show to be able to align and iterate that with feedback. And so at Fanatics, the product vision for our wholesale platform was that for any medium to large businesses, we had the most comprehensive end-to-end order-to-cash and procure-to-pay platform for all of your apparel needs, whether you're a Walmart or a Target or a Denise, sweater shop, for instance. And unlike other competitors, this was mobile first, easy to use, simple, and required no training at all and no setup time. So that was our kind of product vision that I had the fortune and luxury of creating after doing, many interviews and, feedback sessions and co-creating this with the business, for instance. And then it's important, after that, product vision exercise for us to actually just be very open about sharing our prioritization framework. I've seen product managers, obviously very open about sharing roadmaps, but the great product managers also have and share what the prioritization framework is. And this could be just a very simple 3 to 4 point or line thing, whether it's based on number of orders or number of new customers, or it's about time on site of existing customers. Pick your prioritization KPI and just share that openly with it. And you would be amazed when you have a North Star that you have spent adequate time on, and you have a prioritization framework that you're also sharing openly along with the roadmap, you will get far greater alignment than conflict, in your meetings and your conversations, and will get a lot more support for your roadmap also. And after all of that, I tell my teams, product management is ultimately not a popularity game or a sport. And if you are here to play a popularity game, probably product management is not for you, because you have to make some tough decisions. And then it's important to now, come from an independent standpoint and actually have a point of view on where your product and or your platform will actually go. And recognizing that you just cannot please everyone. But now you also have a tool like ChatGPT, which is, as I mentioned, the tool that I use, but you could again use the other Gemini's, Claudes, or build on top of Llama, for instance. You can actually test not only your hypothesis, as I mentioned, but you can actually use this as a strategic tool with the right prompts and learning the right strategic prompts to actually test and stay ahead of conflicting points of view. So you can actually also then stay ahead of what some responses to those points of views can actually look like. It's pretty amazing in terms of how you can train your own LLM to actually stay ahead of some of these strategic conversations. But that's the story behind, it's important for product market fit. When you are on the journey of achieving product market fit, that you also have a decent level of internal alignment. Because if you don't, then that tells you two things. One, it's either a very dysfunctional organization, which is a different problem. Or two, that your stakeholders are telling you something that is important to step back, listen, and incorporate in all through your vision, prioritization, and roadmap. And then it's important to launch quickly. As product managers, we have 3 technical levers. It's time, money, value. At Fanatics, for our B2B business, we had to create something of high value immediately because we were competing against the Nikes and the Adidases of the world. And we didn't have much time because every quarter is lost revenue. So time was really not on our side. So when I recognized that, then as a product leader, my goal was then to be able to use all my resources to be able to influence, evangelize, and gather more resources and money for our projects and for our teams. So if I had I scaled the team 3x, and this was only because I quickly realized between these levers that I had to balance, time's not on my side, and value is not on my side, because we had to deliver something of high value very quickly, even in our MVP. So the obvious, next step would be to, put more money on this problem and try to solve it that way. So you have to know what your levers are and you have to know what your constraints are, and you have to adjust it according to that. And as a product manager, you have to influence your stakeholders to give you more of what you want to be able to achieve the outcomes that you desire. So, summary of what we learned today. Remember to, for product market fit, validate your ideas quickly, test the hypothesis, not just the idea, evaluate your launch success, not just with KPIs, but all the way through customer emotion, align conflicting ideas diligently within the organization, and launch quickly. And again, today with all of these AI and generative AI tools and no code, prototypes, time is not on your side from a launch standpoint, but time is on your side from a tool standpoint. So use these tools effectively and just outsource all of these repeated tasks and use these tools as also a strategic partner for you to be able to achieve product market fit. I have a resource of, tools across the various activities across the product market fit lifecycle, and also some great articles to read that I've gone back to again and again in my advisory journey that I'm sure will be helpful for you. I'm sure Denise and the team will forward this slide deck to you, so you will have this, and please do feel free to refer that. And I don't drink coffee, but I'd love to grab juice or an ice cream or connect with me on LinkedIn, and this is my email address.
Subha, when I saw that line before, grab coffee, you know that it got a good chuckle out of me. It gets a chuckle out of me again. I will say I could listen to your stories all day as another product leader. It is such a gift to be able to learn from somebody and somebody else's experiences. And that is what these sessions are about. So thank you so much for sharing. And now is when the magic happens. Now, for those of you live in today's audience, you get the special gift of asking advice directly from somebody who people pay lots of money for her advice. So let's dive in. So yes, for the first one, I'll say the recording absolutely will be shared. It will be posted to the How to Products That Count YouTube channel. So you will have access to it. Let me dive into one of the questions. You mentioned the importance of validating product ideas quickly, right? And you also mentioned low code, no code mocks. Beyond that, are there specific tools or techniques that you'd recommend for how you can rapidly scale that customer research?
Yeah, it's a great question, Denise. And the heart of it is also because, as I mentioned, time is not on our side. We're all looking to be able to accelerate our product development, product launch, product understanding, strategy, cycles. And why is that important? Why is everybody trying to do this quickly? Is because, we all live in a competitive space. There are anywhere from big companies to startups, possibly on the fringe of offering the products and services that we are offering that are, having the resources to be able to actually do that too. But I want to answer this question, but I also want to give a little bit of a counterintuitive, point of view to this. Specifically, some of the tools, especially in today's generative AI world, that are extremely useful for us to be able to achieve that kind of like pace and acceleration that we want, is one, a solid customer research tool that will help you understand not just the feedback on when your products are launched, but like a continuous customer research and understanding model. I've seen some product leaders use Gong. There's other tools that you can use to be able to do that. But Gong, typically, I think what I see it doing well are things like you can search by keyword. It's multimodal, so it's video, audio, text, voice to text, etc. And it actually helps you pin certain parts of the video, which you can use in possibly certain PowerPoints or discussions, which you can actually bring that emotion more to light. So just a solid customer research tool that helps you not only gauge the value of your products and the feedback of your products that have already launched, but also helps you stay on top of your customers' evolving needs and demands and what people call JBTD, jobs to be done. Like, are your customers' JBTD changing? Is the market changing? Something like a good solid customer research tool, I think, is fundamental to this. The second thing is, using some sort of like a strategic framework to be able to validate hypotheses, conflicting points of view, etc., quickly is helpful. I find that custom LLMs from a chat GPT standpoint, like go to the chat GPT store, create your own custom LLM, pump it with a lot of data. I use it all the time for like competitive research. It just helps me stay on top of what's happening in the market, what new solutions are coming out, new product features are launching. I give it a list of like a dozen companies to watch for, and it gives me product updates on a consolidated way. So I think that is also super helpful. And then the third is just a very robust and insightful customer measurement, tool. And this could be, if you're a larger company, it could be a mix of Amplitude and Mixpanel and Hotjar. But also there are just basic, Google tracking tools that any product can actually have to see how your customers are engaging, retaining, and really working with the product. But over all of that, I would also recommend a qualitative customer satisfaction tool, like just an NPS tool that keeps running on like a monthly, quarterly basis that helps you stay on top of the pulse of what your customers are feeling. So I would say these three are the basics of using the latest Gen AI tools to be able to validate and achieve product market fit quickly. But having said that, I want to say one counterintuitive point, which is achieving sustainable product market fit is much more important than short-term product growth. So falling in love with the problem, the customers, their problems, figuring out unmet needs, differentiating between needs and wants, understanding how JBTDs evolve and change, and really knowing deep down whether you have achieved a product that your customers can't live without, and something of value is something that I think is far more important than any amplitude metric on short-term customer engagement. So yes, have all of the short-term metrics with all the tools that I mentioned, but what is really important deep down is sustainable product market fit, which is the foundation of every product that we should build. Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense. It completely resonates. And I think it's one of the reasons why, I mean, you're touching on this human element of product management, that no matter how great these tools get, I love Sprig, for example, my team uses it for user testing because, right, it's also doing this synthesis now using LLMs behind a scene, which we know the synthesis is the longest part, right? It's like, but just tell me as we're going, I need to get early insights. And so Sprig's doing it. But I think what you're getting at in this, point that you're bringing up here at the end is the human piece, right? How can I, as a product manager, really connect with my customers and really get to know them and their problem, which is something that the tools will never replace, right? And hopefully these tools will give us more time to do that.
Yes. And something that also these tools will sometimes never be able to tell us. I mean, I am a happy, addicted Instagram customer. I don't remember ever asking for an Instagram product. But the proliferation of smartphones, the drudgery of the daily life just meant I needed some sort of an escape at the end of the day, or even at short moments in the end of the day. And voila, Instagram was created. And I am, as I mentioned, sadly and happily addicted to it, both. But that's what the beauty of product market fit is, which is falling in love with the customer and the customer's problems and staying on top of their evolving needs will help you differentiate between the needs and the wants.
Are there tips in terms of that human engagement or things that you do to connect outside of the tooling, right? Like, do you do customer advisory boards? Like, what might you advise somebody on in that regard?
With all of these AI tools that we have right now, you have the ability to reach customers in any part of the world, consolidate, gather any sort of insights, and produce this even in a way, or like produce reports within like minutes that you can actually share with e-teams, etc. So I think that's the beauty of what we actually live in. That means actually for me as product leaders, I try to do something that the tools cannot do, which is just shadowing the customer. Just, I remember at eBay, my training as a product manager was to actually go into their homes and actually see how they're listing their item and or they're buying their item. And I never forgot that advice, because watching our customers in their natural environment in terms of how they're using it will not only help you understand how they're using it, but actually what some of the constraints and dependencies in the market actually, or the environment is that is actually playing on them. So for instance, we actually thought moms are extremely busy and disturbed at home, and so they're very distracted at home, for instance. So that's why the kiosk model was actually really great, for them to be able to come in and enter their orders. But what we actually understood is that in a Walmart store, with their kids running around, the
Right.
mom is even more distracted and even more distressed. They would rather just lock themselves in the bathroom, whip out their phone, and in like 5 minutes place an order. Um, that was actually a much easier way of helping them, save time in terms of what they wanted. So seeing customers in their natural environment is, I think, extremely important. Again, good product leaders would use all of these AI tools that we just talked about in terms of staying on top of, customer needs, wants, etc. Great product leaders will actually show up and have a much better understanding of the natural environment of how customers operate in. Wouldn't you agree, Denise?
I love that. Two moms right here. I
I
can
know.
visualize every moment of what you're describing. I will definitely lock myself in that bathroom. And you are right that, like,
In a
nobody
store,
would,
can you imagine asking the mom to make that decision? It's
right,
brutal.
right. Hi, kids, wait here while I'm busy with this
I
kiosk.
know. Good luck with that.
Yeah, best of luck to you. That's amazing. So I think for all of you, I think especially in this virtual world we're living in, like, go out, spend time with your customers. Don't lose touch with that piece that the machines will never replace, that the human has to go and do. I love that. I'm going to move on to the next set of questions because they are queuing up here. All
Right.
right. So you talked about, the degree of differentiation. How do you go about measuring that? Is that something you measure?
There are ways of actually measuring degrees of differentiation. You could actually perform a gap analysis between competitor products, your products, go capability by capability, do X and, do X's and zeros, and then give yourself a score and give the competitors a score. There are various gap analysis tools that are actually available where you can actually do it. I would say, though, the best degrees of differentiation are where you can actually write a simple one-pager on why would a customer choose your product versus another competitor's product. What are the 3 reasons why they would choose your product? And if you're able to articulate that as a product manager cleanly, simply, you have your degree of differentiation right there. I mean, I say this a lot, Denise, and I'm sure you can empathize with this. Product management, a lot of it is just common sense. And there are lots of tools to help complicate a lot of the things that we want to do. Make it more sophisticated is interesting, and I think we should try and be able to do that, but also try and simplify things a little bit just for yourself and your teams. So yes, do the gap analysis, use frameworks that actually help you score your various products in terms of degrees of differentiation. But at the end of the day, if you can write a simple one-pager with the top 3 reasons of why a customer would pick your product versus another competitor product, that's part of your vision of what you would want to keep achieving as a product leader for your product.
Totally. I used to have a sales leader who used to always say Sesame Street simple, right? If you want it to stick with your go-to-market teams, right? If you can say it, to your point, in like 3 bullets, this is why we're better, then guess what? That is going to stick more than a whole bunch of Harvey Balls.
I love that analogy. I'm gonna use that analogy. I'll give you credit for it, Denise. I love the analogy. Thank you for that. I learned something.
All right. Amazing. Well, all right, let's move on to the next one. From your experience, what are some of the key differences in achieving product market fit between startups and established companies?
Such a great question. At the end of the day, there is probably no difference. It really comes down to falling in love with the customer problem and the market problem more than the solution. It's having a set of strong gated phases before you're able to understand and achieve product market fit to a certain extent before you start scaling them and having those gates. these are not different in any size of the company that I've actually worked at. And I've worked at eBay, which was tens of thousands of people. Fanatics itself was like close to 20,000 people. And I worked at startups of like 100 people. I don't see that being any different. What is different is probably the process and the number of stakeholders in this process. So typically you would expect that this process of actually aligning, documenting, et cetera, it just takes a longer time in a longer cycle in a larger company than it is in a smaller company. And I think the upside to that is also that, in a larger company, you probably have a few more resources to throw at this. So that triad of the balance in terms of like time, value, and money. What I have seen is in some startups, I have conversations with other engineering or business leaders where they say, oh, we are constrained on all three. And I then have to dig deeper and actually really figure out what the constraints are and see and pull out one lever that we can actually use to be able to further the development of our products. But in bigger companies, I think people understand trade-offs and prioritization a lot more nuanced, so you can actually make those decisions more effectively. But yeah, at the end of the day, wherever you are, if you're building some sort of like a software product, and I can speak for software products because that's where I've spent most of the time in, it really just comes down to, are you solving a customer need or a problem? Is it a want versus a need? Are you sure that the product that you have and the feature set that you have is really going to solve it? To what degree do your customers really like what you have put out there? It really comes down to very specific things like this, which I don't think is different.
Yeah.
You
I think the
say
one,
that it is different given your
no,
experience of like working in small and big too. I'm curious.
yeah, I think the one thing I think about is kind of this luxury of a big company that, and it's your point, it's a little bit about how fast you can turn the wheel, that you've got this incredible distribution mechanism already in place, right? You may have thousands of customers where you've already earned their trust. And so you might have quicker access to validate your hypothesis. Or when you get something to market, you've got tighter feedback loops. But I think, and I think that allows you to just crank that wheel a little bit faster.
True. Absolutely. Makes
Yeah.
total sense. Yeah.
But I love, I mean, and I'm sure you get this a lot too. I love like the scrappy startup folks that are reaching out on LinkedIn that are like, hey, I know like you're my, target market. And so can I get your feedback on this? So I think there's ways to do it.
And I think there's ways to also understand truly what that level of balance is for your company, and orient your company according to that. So I teach CEOs now from a product market standpoint that if all three of the edges of the triangle, both time, value, all three, time, value, and money, are constrained, um, chances of success is actually also dependent on a much more sophisticated understanding of what your constraints are and knowing where you can invest and where you need to pull back. So I advise even the CEOs that I work with, really get down to the heart of understanding at least one lever that you can have the luxury of, kind of having more flexibility on, that you can actually throw at the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Where can you relax? Even in the smallest ways. All right. Next question for you. If you had only 10 minutes with an early adopter customer, what questions would you ask?
Such a great question. I'll tell you why it's important to actually really understand why it's important to understand feedback from an early adopter customers. It's important because they have had the courage to be able to use the product when it is at, a growing, evolving stage. Think of when, if you were an early adopter of, say, the iPhone, for instance, we lived with a lot of the imperfections of iPhones at that time because we were excited by the technology, we were excited by the potential. So you actually have somebody who, in a way, whether it's unsaid, believes in the vision the same way that you do, believes in the potential the same way that you do. These early adopters have the potential to become the advocates for your product over the longer period of time. So that's why it's really important to focus on these early adopters and really understand their feedback. But it's also important to take that feedback with an extremely sophisticated lens, because early adopters There are two classes of early adopters, one that come with complete rose tinted glasses in terms of, oh my gosh, I love it. Like, the promise of that really excites them. And there are folks that are, I've seen early adopters that are on the two ends of the spectrum, which is they either love it or they hate it. And so you have to have a certain degree of, sophistication to be able to actually understand the nuances of why they love it or why they hate it, and really go down to the next level. And I think that can only happen when you're, really spending time with them again in their natural environment and seeing them kind of use the product. So I would, if I had 10 minutes with an early advisor, early adopter, for instance, my goal would be to actually see how I can turn them into an advocate for life. And so with that in mind, I think that maybe the three questions that I would ask them is, possibly the first two would not even be about the product. It would just be to understand, we introduced one-click bid. I can think of this thing, which we introduced one-click bid for eBay, which, I blatantly copied from Amazon's one-click checkout. And the premise was we wanted to save time, especially in the last few seconds of actually placing the bid, when we used to get approximately, 20% of our bids was in the last 15 seconds, and just enough
Sure.
time to go through like 3-4 steps. I think the first two things that I just wanted to understand from when we put the first prototype out was just, how do you bid? Why do you wait till the last minute? What are you hoping to achieve with the bid? Do you want to win every item that you bid on? Or how do you look at it like as a portfolio of bets? How do you look at it? And I think understanding that first is very important from an early adopter standpoint. And then the second is, then presenting the product and actually seeing how they use it and whether it actually improves the hypothesis that you have in mind, which is saving time, for instance, was the hypothesis for one-click bid, whether it really helps them achieve that or not. And then the third is, I would actually turn it back at them and say, just very, very simply, what are some of the recommendations that you would have for improving this? And this is where, again, you'll have to be very cognizant about needs versus want, not get into the product death cycle and building exactly what they want from I have a lot of documents and I just need to build like a bulk upload functionality. Whereas what we really needed was more integrations to Box and Dropbox. But just understanding their point of view is, I think, a good start for knowing then how to then build on and separating the need versus the want. So again, if I had 10 minutes with an early adopter, one, I would grab it, because early adopters are fantastic. They've given you the chance, they use your product, they're the best avenues for feedback on the product. I would recognize and be cognizant of the fact that these can be very extreme feedback. They have the potential to turn into advocates for your product. And so I would first ask, and know their just general environment, not even anything about the product. The second, I would see how they're using the product. And the third is just ask them some recommendations on the product. So I think that's how I would approach an early adopter. Does that resonate with you, Denise?
100%. 100%. And you got to have thick skin sometimes, right? I had an early adopter once tell me my product was a toy because it was the MVP. And that, kind of tells you, and you need to spend some time with enough early adopters to say, does it provide enough value for enough people today, or do I need to do more?
And you bring up a really good point. I mean, I remember one-click bid, so many early adopters hated it because they felt like it just took the joy away from bidding for them. And then we kind of like made it into a console game interface and we brought some of the joy back. But the feedback was pretty extreme. And I think having a good set of early adopters that you can get a broad set of feedback will also help you inform your product. And I think that's a really great point that you make, Denise.
Yeah, I want to ask you maybe one follow-up on that related to kind of what you're talking about here, which is, how do you determine when do I pivot, when do I persevere, or when do I pull the plug?
Yeah. This is so important because, we all put a lot of passion and effort into building products, at any stage. And I think deciding whether to pivot, persevere, or pull the plug, really comes down to, kind of one brutal truth, which is, if you're not seeing clear signs of your product, being adopted after repeated efforts, it's really time to make that tough call. So I would say the three questions that I would look at in terms of considering for either pivoting, persevering, or pulling the plug is the first is there real evidence of unmet customer needs that our product can solve with the next iteration, with some additions? If yes, then I would pivot, focus on that need, and change the direction.
Mhm.
The second is, are there enough positive signals like customer feedback, increasing engagement, early adoption, and a lot of early adopters? Not just at the scale that you want it at yet, but like it is there and it is emerging. Then I would persevere. I would double down on what's working and just maybe cut what's not and give it a bit more time. And the third is the data showing that it is flat or very slow rates of like positive growth compared to the investments that you're making, or even worse, kind of like negative growth, for instance? Then if yes, then we pull the plug. Because it's better to fail fast and learn from these experiences and direct your resources to something that is of higher potential. So at the end of the day, we got to be, as product managers, ruthless and frank about the data that we're seeing and honest to ourselves about the potential of our own products, regardless of whatever time and money we have spent on it in the past. So I would say, that's a framework that I use, the three-prong, the three questions, and really not to waste time and resources on something that's not making a difference from a customer and or a market or a revenue standpoint.
I love that. I mean, honestly, when you've been in the industry as long as you have, I'm sure that you have done all three of those things. And so if you're sitting here today listening and you haven't done all those three things yet, you will at some point in time in your career if you're in the product management job long enough. And so I think, to your point, you've just got to look in the mirror and make that tough call.
I will add one more thing to it. In the last two jobs, I've actually cut more than, pivot and persevered. It's just, I think, a nature of the business and the industry that I've been in. But it comes with some great team dinners. Take the team out for a great lunch, open a bottle of wine, have a good time with the team. And, that's one cherry on top of hopefully the cake that we couldn't fully build, but we can at least eat the fruit.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, the free money is a little bit over, right? And this is, I think, why you said validate quickly to begin with, right? Is because we need to be able to get to that decision fast, because the faster we get to that decision, the sooner we can move those resources, that investment, to something that is going to produce ROI for our business.
Absolutely. And we need to be at the forefront of it as product managers. We have, in today's day and world of AI and generative AI and all the tools that are available for us, we need to stay on top of using these tools, have a subset of tools that actually work for us, that optimize for what we want to optimize it for. And if it's time for you, then you have a set of tools that optimizes for that. If it is quality, or if it's revenue, or if it's ROI, your set of tools will be different. And that's a whole session in itself in terms of like, what is the right set of tools for what you want to optimize. But mostly we are all optimizing for time. And some sort of like an LLM, some sort of like customer research tool, all these tools, and having those tried and tested in your back pocket can really help you achieve the kind of product velocity that you want to achieve. And so rather than somebody like a salesperson coming and telling us, hey, we should kill this product, I think as a product manager, it would be great if we are on top of it ourselves and are able to drive that strategy and direction ourselves. I personally believe.
No, I think more and more that is what our job has shifted to.
Yeah.
So Subha, I know we're at time. I cannot thank you enough. This flew by, and I can guarantee that everybody took something incredible away from this session today. Your advice, your wisdom is invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Denise, if it's okay, I would love to send you in a follow-up email, like a QR code or a quick NPS form. I'd love to get some feedback from the audience. So thank you all for attending and participating and actively asking these questions. As with all products, I love your feedback. So Denise and I will figure out a way to get your feedback to be able to, so I can develop more content that can be useful for you. Thank you, Denise, for having me.
Test your personal product market fit.
Of course, you dog food your own product, right? We're all product managing our work too.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Have an amazing rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us.